Hello, folks, and welcome to the Modern Agile Show, episode 37. We are here with my good friend, Diana Larsen. It's a pleasure to have you here. She is the co-founder and chief connector of the Agile Fluency project.
Yes.
And a longtime friend. We've known each other for well over 20 years.
Yes.
Going way back to the Consultants Retreat and Network back in Oregon.
Yes.
Coast of Oregon. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Since then, my God, you've done so much in the Agile field, and you are a real, inspired leader.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks.
So we have a lot to talk about, and we want to make this valuable to you, so we're going to focus on little gems of stuff that might be useful.
Yeah.
Why don't we start off with a story?
With the story. Oh, well, why don't we start with a story of us working together?
Okay, yeah.
Like at the engineering design company.
Yes. So this is a great story. This was a retrospective that we did way back in the day. It was maybe 2003.
Yeah.
And it was hard to sell them on the retrospective. Remember that?
Yes.
Like they had never done an end of project retrospective before.
Right.
And we had to twist arms and figure things out, and it was, they just didn't, the managers didn't think, they knew everything already.
Oh, sure.
There's like, what's there to learn from a retrospective? But we managed to get it to happen.
Right.
And
and this is before Agile iterative retrospectives. This was the big end of project deal. Yeah, they had finally, it actually wasn't the end of the project, if you remember. It was when the project had been supposed to end, this was scheduled, but subsequently the project had been extended another several weeks because they weren't really ready to deliver.
Were not ready.
And we went ahead and did the retrospective anyway because they had plenty of history to look at.
Yes.
At that point.
Now I'm remembering, this was 2002, in fact.
Yeah.
It was 2002 because it came right after 9/11 that started. Yeah. And long before your book, I'll plug your book here. One of her books, she has many books. This is the Agile Retrospectives book, co-written with Esther Derby. But long before this book came out.
Long before that book came out. This book came out in 2006.
So
So our story is 4 years before that.
Yeah. So it was a magical thing because, tell the story.
Well, so as I always did a little bit of research to find out for myself, interviewed a bunch of people to find out what had been going on and what kinds of things would make the most sense to focus on during the retrospective, because that help to determine what the design should be. What kind of activities do we need to do to sort of unpack some of these things that have happened. And a number of things had happened. The deadline had been extended a few times. I remember there was a great conversation with one of the leaders about why they had even embarked on this idea of Agile. And he was saying, often our projects don't deliver on time.
Right.
And he was like acknowledging that as a reality, right? But he said, at least now that we've started working in this new way, I have noticed that it's not going to deliver on time, in time to talk to my customers and so on. So that was a really cool thing. They were, he was eager to learn, not so much everybody else, but he was. And one of the events, when we did the big timeline, we did an enormous timeline, floor to ceiling.
I have photos of it still.
It
was absolutely gorgeous. And people walked the timeline and made sense of it. And it was all colored. It was beautifully colored. Diana did an incredible job of having just different colors representing different things. So when you looked at the big giant wall, you could see, here's where things were really tough, and it was brilliant.
Well, and one of the things that timeline illuminated was we because it was the end of project, we had all the project members there, and there were like 50 people on that team, including the 4 leaders, manager leaders. And but we invited in some other folks who had been engaged along the way. Like we had a couple of representatives from HR, we had somebody there from marketing and sales and so on. And one of the things that became apparent about the late delivery was how much it had been impacted by the fact that a few weeks before, HR had delivered to this 4-person leadership team a 42-page per person performance review document to fill out. And it had completely absorbed all of the time of at least one of those leaders and some of the time of the other one. So it effectively took 30% of their leadership away in one fell swoop.
Well, and my understanding, because at the time we were coaching them, I was coaching the teams, was that wasn't new. That had been around.
Oh, yes. That was their standard operating,
And so there were numerous managers who were just weighed down by it. We were trying to work with them, helping them to learn some Agile things, helping them to work on some chartering, for example, where there were certain objectives we were trying to measure, and they had no time for it.
They had to do this.
And they'd be like, I'm working on this 42-page thing for this person and that person and many teammates. So it was hard.
It was a big group. It was a cool group. I mean, they had a lot of cross-functionality. They had documentation writers and all kinds of folks. There was some interesting pairing going on. All that.
Usability people.
Yes, all that showed up on the timeline. But this this enormous bolus trying to move through the system of these performance reviews was just amazing. And once we had it up on the wall and the HR folks got it, what the impact of what they had requested. And of course, they were locally optimizing.
Right.
That's how HR did its business. They had no sense that the requests that they delivered to the team had any impact on ultimate customer delivery.
Right.
And so it was a huge insight for them. And they were shocked. And I remember the one lady, her eyes were like, it just got huge. It's like, oh my gosh, we did that.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was a good retrospective.
And they almost didn't buy this retrospective, because they kept saying, oh, we know what the problems are. Well, they didn't.
No.
And it was an incredible thing. So wonderful memory. And that kind of leads into you in your career, really help people to learn. I mean, this book Liftoff that you co-wrote with Ainsley, is helping people, I think, learn how to get started working together.
Yes.
Is that what you'd say?
That's the idea. Well, what we hope happens, if well designed, well facilitated, what we hope happens is a part of a liftoff or chartering is that there is a tone set.
Yes.
That we are a group of people who are going to work together in such a way that we are continuously learning.
Yes.
And so one of the things we talk about with the charter here is that the charter is always in draft.
Yes.
So the initial is just to get that first draft done. And then after that, using retrospectives, using planning meetings, using all the other tools and opportunities that people's that are available to teams to continue to refine it, to continue to learn what needs to be refined about this. And so that then the joke that Ainsley and I always say is that we don't actually really know what the charter is until like the day after delivery. because up until then, it could still be morphing and changing in response to new things that are learned by that team as a system and by that whole product development effort as a system. Is always learning new things. I mean, it's one of the bases of Agile.
That's why I often say it's not the charter, it's chartering. It's an ongoing thing like refactoring. We don't just have a phase for refactoring. Chartering's the same way. We're constantly, tweaking.
I refactored yesterday.
Oh, excellent.
I don't need to do that anymore.
All right.
I already refactored on this project.
I know, right? I did that already. So this is about learning continuously. Agile Retrospectives is about learning continuously. And you wrote a book with your son. I think it's called 5 Rules for Accelerated Learning. It's an ebook. So we'll post a link to that.
It's on LeanPub.
On LeanPub, okay. And that's one of your passions.
Yes.
And it is one of mine too. I think it's what connects us is, how can we help a person learn faster?
Right.
How can we ourselves learn faster instead of...
How can we help a person learn faster? How can we help a team learn faster together? How can we help a department learn more about how to be effective as a whole group? I mean, it's the systems, right? Going. It's the learning systems. Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's hugely impactful. So I don't know that book too well. Can you give a...
Sure. That book is, it's very different from some of the books that talk about how to do like good classroom training.
Right.
It has implications for that, but that's not where it stops. That book is really about how do you set up environments for learning. So whether that's in a classroom or in a workroom, workspace, or wherever that might be.
Gotcha.
Earlier we were talking about where we were sitting and having coffee before we did this video, and the idea of clearing a space and having a pool of light helps people learn. If they're working there, if they can't see, then how are they going to learn together? And so it's keeping all of those things in mind. So the 5 rules simply are keep it alive, which has to do with understand we're always working with humans.
Yes.
And so learn something about how humans learn. They learn through play, they learn through emotional connection, they learn through relationships, they learn through their senses. So you said that timeline had all the colors on it?
Yes. For me, I'm very, I pay attention to color, and that was a great way for me to see and learn. Just
the whole idea of visualizing work, is a very, humans connect with that, it's using our senses that we take in information.
And we accelerate learning when we can visualize.
Yes, exactly. And so that's the first and foremost. Remember, we're working with humans, and humans have certain needs for context for their learning. Then the second one is setting first. So when you think about all the 5 rules together, how can you create the optimal conditions? Now, and this is like in a classroom or remote. In my home office if I'm just trying to manage my own learning, or any in a workspace, whatever it might be. How do we set the conditions for people to learn?
Interesting. And that brings me back for a minute to an old book that heavily influenced me called How to Read a Book.
Yes.
By Mortimer Adler, and he starts talking about chairs.
Yes.
And what kind of chair to sit in and how to sit in. And it's like because you're about to read, so it's very much that.
And a lot of the Christopher Alexander patterns. In a pattern language, actually also pools of light, different chairs. People always learn better. And in the training room that we've set up at Agile Fluency Project HQ in Portland, I have different there aren't all the same kind of chairs around the conference tables. So people can pick what, you want a chair that rolls, you want a chair that's static, you want a chair that gives you a lot of back support, you want a chair that lets you move around. We make sure that that's accommodated because it's setting first.
That's great. I have another chair here, by the way.
No, this one's good. And so that's important. Then the third rule is do it for real, which is the one about building fluency. It is how do people become skilled as quickly as possible. And so as close as you can get to doing the thing that you're trying to learn for real.
Oh, and love it.
So astronauts into a swimming pool. Can't really put them out in space for an extended period of time because they die. You can't practice that. But they can practice in their full suits in a swimming pool, which is as close to a weightless environment, or pilots and flight simulators, or you want to get as close as possible to using the real tools and the real resources and whatever is available.
Hugely important.
Which is why simulations are effective, as long as they are as close as possible to doing the real thing. When I worry about people who put too much emphasis on games. Play is good. People learn through play, but you don't want it too far removed from the thing you're actually trying to learn. And then the fourth one is start obvious, stay obvious. None of this obfuscating, what it is you're trying to learn kind of thing. the whole college professor, you got to dig it out of me. I'm not going to tell you what it is you want to learn. That whole thing is not a good learning situation.
Right.
It's a situation for saying how expert you are, but it's not really a situation for helping anybody else learn.
Yes.
And then the last one is focus on flow. And that is size and sequencing the learning.
Yes.
So that you're getting what we call bite-sized pieces.
Yes.
Right, that are easily consumable, and then you're ready for the next piece. Yeah. So figuring out that flow of learning, right? So focus on that flow. So those are the 5 rules, and you can do those anywhere, anytime. Yeah. And we've got more stories and more kind of examples of that in the book. But it is a part of my continuing thread of, I think software. I mean, those are the people I love to work with, right? Are the software people, let's face it, software IT people. And I think that work is all about learning.
It is, yes.
You're learning about your customer, you're learning about your teammates, you're learning about the unit tests, learn about the behavior of the code. Right. I mean, it's all learning. It's all learning all the time.
Learning about your teammates and what their needs are.
And that's what enables continuous improvement.
Right.
You can't have continuous improvement if you're not learning about what's going on to begin with. Right. And so that all kind of works together.
It's interesting too, because I guess some people get turned off in school. They're not accelerated learning. They're not in an accelerated learning. They're just completely turned off. They're not inspired. Right. Because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Because the other day someone tweeted about how people just aren't writing unit tests, and the managers don't know about them, don't know the importance of them. Yeah. The developers just aren't learning them. I'm like, what is it let's forget the unit tests for a minute and go backwards. What leads people to want to learn, to want to get better? Yeah. Like when I got into the software field, I knew I didn't know a lot, and I knew I had to learn a lot, so I was constantly buying books and constantly learning. Right. And there was also joy in that because I'd come across like some code base that was beautifully written, like a piece of art. Yeah. And I would look at it and go, wow, that's really good software design there. I want to be able to do that. Right. But what was that in me? Where did that come from? Because I know I was in science class in high school. I had a terrible teacher and I hated science because of that. Yeah. So is there something about the inspiration, getting inspired? Yeah,
I think there is that. And there's also, if you're ever around babies and toddlers,
which I have been.
Yes, you know. Humans are born little learning machines.
Oh my God, yes. They put stuff in their mouth and spit it out.
Yes. Well, and what if I take this and drop it on the floor? What does mommy do then?
Right. Oh yeah.
How do I learn somebody wrote a book called Baby Scientists or something. All the experiments that they're running all the time and learning the patterns, right?
I remember my oldest daughter when she was first born, she would like cry out, meh, and then she'd open an eye to see if anyone was coming. She was
testing, yeah. So somewhere along the line, if we are born into a nurturing environment where we are getting our physical needs met as small children, so our brains can grow and so on. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's all that. But if that is happening, somewhere along the line, that learning impulse gets chopped.
Yes.
And I have speculations about where that happens and how that happens, and the institutions that we have set up to cause that to happen, that I probably don't want to talk about here. But that's what happens to those folks. Yeah. And the whole Alfie Kohn and Carol Dweck and all the work that they've done around intrinsic rewards and extrinsic rewards, and how extrinsic rewards absolutely destroy that love of learning that we are all born with. Yeah. I feel so fortunate that I've been able to hold on to that. And I love meeting people who like to play at work, because I know that means they've probably held on to that love of learning.
Yes. Yes.
Right? But this is an issue for user groups.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing to me how many organizations I go into and I'm talking with the development team members and I say, how many of you go to your local user group meetings?
Oh, yeah. They don't.
And, you know, if 2 hands go up, I'm kind of shocked at this point. I mean, early on, I expected, everybody's going to want to be out there learning. But, you know, people have lives.
Yes.
They may have children at home. They may have other kinds of hobbies. And
so
all, you know, managing a life is a thing as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I think learning is so critically important that and then for leaders.
Yes.
To create situations where people can learn. It seems to me that's one of their primary jobs.
So we were talking about the problems in organizations where people don't learn from each other,
right? And
they're in silos.
Right.
You told a story when we were chatting before about a place you went into where you were playing the Agile Fluency game.
Yeah.
And something amazing happened.
Yeah.
You want to tell that story?
Sure. Every so often, I will get a request for a leadership retreat or one kind of a event or another to bring the Agile Fluency game as a part of a kind of an organizing principle for that event. And so this is an organization where I had done some previous work, and we had talked about the Agile Fluency model and the game, and some time had passed, and I got a call that said, could you come in and bring the game? We're going to have a leadership retreat. We're going to bring together all the leaders that have to do with the building and delivering of our software.
And the selling.
And the selling, yes.
And marketing?
All of that. Everything. All of that.
Excellent.
So it was the engineering leaders, managers, and director and vice president, and the QA folks, the QA UX folks were there, customer support, sales, and marketing. And product management,
so that's
of course.
Deeply cross-functional.
Deeply cross-functional
leadership
group.
level people?
All leadership level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you played the game.
And we played the game. We had 5 or 6 tables of people playing the game.
Wonderful.
And we made sure that each table was cross-functional as well.
Yes.
And so they played the game. They lost. Everybody does the first time.
So and it's a simulated software project.
2.5 years of a software project.
So you can
right. Every round is a quarter. It's a Euro style game like a Settlers of Catan or something like that.
Okay.
And so there's 10 rounds. Every round is a quarter.
Okay.
Or a season.
So they lost at first when you say, and how many quarters did
they often, most folks go lose within the first year.
Okay, so
of the project.
So then you retrospected on that.
Because they've tied themselves up at so much maintenance that they can't continue. So
the maintenance of the software.
Yeah. So then we do a debrief. We do a retrospective on what happened and what choices did you make and how do you think those choices led to what you, and how much is that like what you currently do in your software projects, that's always a fun conversation. Anyway, and so then we say, well, so what do you think you could have done differently, right? And we talk about that, and then we get a little chance to plan. They're going to play it again, and they can plan a little while, and then they play it again, and then in general they do much better.
Do better.
Yeah, do much better. And so then we talk about why did that happen. We retrospect on that, right? So then at the end, then they had some other work that they needed to go do together after that. So my part was done, and I just said, well, let's just go quickly around and tell me what you're going to take away from this experience.
Yeah.
And we went around to everybody. I don't remember what everybody said, but the one really memorable one was the vice president of sales, who said, well, I came in skeptical that this was going to be, useful to me, and I'm still, I'm still not absolutely sure, but I wish there was a game like this that would help me explain sales to the rest of you. And I thought, yes, this game has done its job. But then one of the other managers, one of the engineering managers who led a couple of the teams that was like on one of their flagship products, said, I really would like to understand your job better. Can we set aside a time to go have coffee together?
Wonderful.
And yes, and it's like, then I do feel like, okay, my work here is done.
And he agreed?
And he agreed, okay. And then
so
life went on.
Yeah. Conway's Law, right?
Absolutely.
Getting people to actually, who are in silos almost, to talk to each other.
To talk to each other. And making those opportunities in organizations to get the whole system in a room. I mean, one of the other learning things I love is open space events, right?
And Diana's an absolute master of open space. I'm serious. I've never seen anyone open an open space the way you do, and it's really incredible.
Thank you. But and that's why I love it, because I see so much learning going on there. But those kinds of events, whether it's playing a game together or going to an open space together, but work focused.
Yes.
Not just social. I mean, social events are important. We need to know people outside of work as well.
Yeah.
But work-focused, cross-system events. Heidi talks about this with dynamic reteaming. I think the reason that works is that they have these frequent all-company open spaces, so people can stay up to speed.
Oh, yes.
On what's going on, and it makes all the difference.
They at her new job, they have a get to know you lunch, which is money they'll give you to get to know someone who you don't know and have lunch with them. They'll literally give you money to do this,
right?
Because they're fighting that tendency of organizations to become siloed,
right?
Not know each other.
Well, humans, we do tend to tribalize. We tend to find our folks and want to stick with our folks, because it's familiar and for a lot of reasons. And there are times when you want that to happen.
Right.
But also, if you spend too much time in your comfort zone, that's not where learning happens.
That's right.
Learning happens out here on the edge of your comfort zone, right? And you have to also have those things that cause you to sort of step into the unfamiliar, step into the a little bit discomfortable. Not so much that you get paralyzed by fear. There's a balance in there.
Yes.
But finding that right balance to give people some experiences. I mean, a simulation, right? I mean, that is a good example of a thing that can kind of it's kind of a safe to fail. Right? You play this game, it's safe to fail at this game, right? Yeah. But you also can get some learning because you're trying something new and you don't really... A lot of the people who played that game, every time it happens, that instance and all the others, don't know all the terms, what the practices are, and so it gives them an opportunity to start putting some context around terms like refactoring or TDD or whatever that the engineering teams may be throwing around willy-nilly, but nobody, it's just jargon to everybody else. So how do you begin to create some of that common language?
Yes.
You have to step into the space where you can admit that you don't know.
Right.
Before you can learn. So the conscious incompetence kind of deal.
So learning is like what did you call it? The through line?
Oh, absolutely.
It's basically in everything you do.
Yeah.
I think you're really very talented at the models around helping people learn. And that's very valuable in today's world where we see a few too many recipes. Agile recipes coming down from on high or frameworks and things where you're just trying to follow a framework. Where learning is really the key to agility, isn't it?
Right. I think it is. I think it is. And I think things like what we're doing at the Agile Fluency Project, which is trying to illuminate the ways you can be successful at Agile that are specifically fit to different kinds of business needs. And the kinds of things that you're doing with Modern Agile and the quick, easy grace. Those things, they are complementary.
Totally.
They are mutually supportive, and there's a few other streams of thought that people are contributing in the Agile world right now that are similar to that, where it's complementary and it is supporting people in learning from different different dimensions, different aspects of that.
And you have a new ebook out on the Agile Fluency?
Yes, project? on our website, agilefluency.org.
Okay, excellent.
People can go there and download a free ebook.
Yeah.
It's actually the white paper that's on Martin Fowler's site.
Oh, nice. I remember that. Yeah.
But it's organized and it's formatted in such a way that it's easier to read on a phone or mobile device, and it's just it reads more like a book. It's it's divided up better and stuff.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we better close it up here, but it's been a pleasure talking to you. We could probably go on for another hour at least.
At least.
I really appreciate you coming, and please find out more about Diana Larsen and all the great work she's been doing with Agile Fluency and her books. Great stuff that we really need in this world. So thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed it, please share it with others, and we'll be back for more. Thanks again for coming.